From the Cronkite Studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
I just thought, no, this must be a mistake. Maybe it was like someone else's car, but no, it was very, very real.
As we learn new details tonight on the massacre of a family from a Mormon community in Mexico, we take an in-depth look at the recent surge in violence near the border.
Plus, students are taking to social media to say enough is enough after flyers featuring swastikas and the Star of David were discovered on the ASU campus.
They breed much further north, they winter much further south, and then they just land on any of these water bodies.
And why pelicans migrating south are making a pit stop right here in Arizona.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Madison LaBerge.
And I'm Daria Yasmin. Thank you for joining us.
New developments tonight on an ambush involving 9 American citizens, including 6 children.
They were allegedly killed by members of the Mexican cartel on Monday near the border state of Sonora.
Cronkite News reporter Marcela Bayeto is joining us now with the very latest as she takes a look at the current state of Mexico and violence. Marcela?
The number of killings in Mexico is on the rise, according to government officials. Now, this one brutal ambush is part of a larger issue of crime and violence plaguing Mexico. Mexico has had a long history of violence, and this most recent ambush, which killed 3 mothers and 6 of their children who are part of a fundamentalist Mormon community, is another example of the ongoing danger there. Homicides dropped to a near-term low in 2014, but by last year, there was a 74% increase in the homicide rate per 100,000 people compared to 2014, and is now 6 times the rate of homicides in the United States as of 2018. When it comes to this specific case, family members are calling on both the U.S. government and Mexican officials for answers.
These kinds of injustices and atrocities should never be, this evil should never be tolerated in these nations, in our countries, by our leaders and by people in general.
The families were traveling between 2 northern Mexican states. They started near La Mora and Sonora along a route through mountains, including dirt roads, to the family's home in Colonia Le Barron in Chihuahua. We looked at some of the recent homicide numbers within these 2 Mexican states, and we found in Sonora there have been 111 intentional homicides as of September 2019. And in the state where the family's home is, Chihuahua, homicides have nearly doubled at 206. Alexandra Avina, who's an expert on the state of violence in Mexico, says this tragic incident is part of a larger issue.
This has been part of a war on drugs launched by the Mexican government by Felipe Calderón, the president.
President Donald Trump has offered to help Mexico find those responsible for the ambush. Here's how Mexico's president responded.
First off, I appreciate his interest in wanting to participate with this issue. And at the same time, I would also want him to appreciate and be respectful of our sovereignty.
Now, if you do have plans to travel down to Mexico, the U.S. State Department advises on a few things. First off, try using toll roads when possible and avoid driving in the dark or at night. Live at the digital desk, Marcela Bayeto, Cronkite News.
An initiative to make Tucson a sanctuary city was shot down by voters yesterday. Prop 205 would have limited the circumstances in which police officers could ask about immigration status. More than 70% of voters voted against the vote, mark an end to months of debate over whether Tucson, less than 100 miles north of the U.S.-Mexico border, would buck a state law preventing sanctuary cities, becoming Arizona's only city to formally limit cooperation with federal immigration authorities. Several states, counties, and cities around the country have declared themselves sanctuary cities, including Los Angeles, New Orleans, and Seattle.
Tucson voters also elected their first Latina mayor. Democrat Regina Romero was overwhelmingly elected Tuesday to lead Arizona's second largest city. Not only will Romero be the first woman, but she will also be the first Hispanic mayor since 1875.
The Phoenix City Council is voting right now on whether or not to allocate $2 million in funding for pedestrian safety improvements in 2018. A staggering 112 pedestrians were killed in Phoenix. The city has seen a 200% increase in deaths just in the last decade. The Office of Pedestrian Safety is hoping to reduce these numbers by updating streetlights and crosswalks, amongst other things. State authorities started implementing new technology, mostly at freeway off-ramps, in order to stop wrong-way accidents.
Ryan Muscat tells us how this technology is working to prevent head-on crashes.
Different freeway systems, they have signs, they have things that flash. We have all kinds of indicators.
In January of 2018, they started this new technology that is basically thermal cameras. The whole system costs $4 million and so far has detected more than 90 wrong-way vehicles.
According to ADOT, millions of dollars have been spent on signs like this in the valley, along with other technologies. But accidents continue to happen.
Jonathan Montes, a trooper for DPS, believes there are other factors.
So we do suspect that impairment to be a factor in this collision, yeah.
Even drivers in the valley have a different opinion.
New people moving into town that may not know, hey, don't get on this side because it's different everywhere.
According to ADOT, we are in the process of evaluating the Pilot I-17 wrong-way vehicle detection and warning system technology. The system will alert AZ, DPS, and ADOT to wrong-way vehicles so troopers can respond sooner than waiting for 911 calls. In Phoenix, Ryan Muscat, Cronkite News.
According to ADOT, the majority of wrong-way drivers are impaired.
Jewish students at ASU are taking to social media to express their concerns over anti-Semitic posters spread around the Tempe campus. The posters in bold font read, "Love, not hate." However, the O in love is replaced with a swastika, and the A in hate replaced with the Star of David. One student posted a photo on their social media saying that enough is enough and to stop the, quote, hatred towards Jews. I spoke with Hillel Vice President William Weinstein outside of a historic Jewish synagogue downtown. He told me that both he and his organization found out about these flyers through word of mouth. His organization actually reached out to the ASU Police Department as well as the university.
Jordan, how do you... Has been one of the worst semesters for anti-Semitic incidents in my memory. The only solution I can see for the incident is cleaning up the flyers, trying to figure out who put them there, and then making sure that that person is publicly recognized for what they do. Because if you want to publicly get a message out there, you should probably attach your face to it.
Weinstein told me he feels these incidents are on the rise. I went to the website listed on the flyers, and the oldest content on the website is from September. The video on the homepage has just over 200 views. ASU Police Department did not return our call for comment.
A new report from Georgetown University says the number of Arizona children without health insurance has increased more than 10% between 2016 and 2018. The state of Arizona has the third highest number of uninsured children in the nation, behind Texas and Alaska. More than 4 million children across the nation were uninsured, the highest level since the Affordable Care Act's expansion began in 2014.
New research finds as climate change alters the environment in the coming decades, valley fever is poised to spread far beyond the desert. Currently, California and Arizona make up more than 95% of all U.S. cases. Valley fever is an infection caused by the fungus that lives in the soil here in the Southwest. Research at the University of California, Irvine predict that the range of San Joaquin Valley fever will be more than double over the next 75 years, spreading to the Midwest and Canada.
New tonight, pelicans usually aren't the first birds that come to mind when you think of Arizona.
But Cronkite News reporter Melanie Porter found out why these birds are making a stop here in the valley.
Pelicans breed up by Canada, North and South Dakota, and Montana, and they migrate to the Gulf of Mexico. But I found out that more of these birds are wintering in Arizona because we offer prime living conditions. It's a shocking experience. They are so beautiful and almost confusing.
I knew what I was looking at, but I didn't really realize what I was looking at.
To see these wetland birds in Arizona.
Sometimes I'm not sure where I am.
Here in Arizona, we aren't really known for our pelicans, but pelicans are flying south for the winter and settling in man-made lakes all across the state for fresh fish and warm temperatures.
They breed much further north. They winter much further south. And then they just land on any of these water bodies.
Decreasing water levels in their natural habitats makes them an easy target to predators.
Their nesting island used to have water all around it, and it was free of any predators like coyotes. Well, now it's connected to the mainland, and coyotes can come out to where they nest.
But when pelicans come to Arizona, they land in maintained lakes, so they don't have to worry about predators or food.
But they just follow the food.
These guys follow the food.
So that makes sense why they would be in kind of man-made lakes, because we put fish into them, right?
Exactly. So the pelicans have found great winter restaurants.
This isn't the first time pelicans have come to Arizona. Brown pelicans sometimes fly here to escape from coastal storms, but they used to be transported out of the state because we didn't have a suitable habitat for them.
Yeah, North American pelican is very different than your brown pelican, which is on the coast. North American pelicans are more inland and on lakes and rivers and whatever streams, so they're a welcome sight for Arizonans.
With the addition of large lakes and ponds in the valley, both brown pelicans and white pelicans are allowed to stay and enjoy our desert climate.
You know, we don't expect to see a water bird like this in the middle of the desert, so it's a treat.
And this unexpected guest has become a welcomed winter visitor for nature lovers of all ages. Melanie Porter, Cronkite News.
Once the weather starts to cool down, pelicans will continue on their journey south for the winter.
But until then, you can find them in places like the recharge ponds in Glendale and the riparian preserve in Gilbert.
We will begin our open hearings in the impeachment inquiry next week.
Coming up next on Cronkite News at 5, what you need to know about the first public hearings in the Trump impeachment inquiry.
And the astronomical phenomenon coming to Arizona skies next week. We'll tell you when to get your telescopes out when we come back.
Cronkite Noticias is the Spanish-speaking division of Cronkite News, covering topics such as economics, education, sustainability, immigration, and border relations. Cronkite Noticias strives to serve the Spanish-speaking community in Arizona. Under the guidance of prominent Spanish-speaking professionals, students at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism develop content for our broadcast partner, Univision, as well as on Facebook and Twitter. Explore Cronkite Noticias at cronkitenoticias.azpbs.org.
With wildfires, a scarcity of water, and other environmental issues facing the Earth today, it's critical to stay up to date with local impacts of a changing climate. That's why we created Elemental, covering sustainability, a multimedia collaboration between public television and radio stations. From climate change to water conservation to renewable energy and much more, Elemental covers the latest in sustainability news. Find our stories on our website, elementalreports.com.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles. In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem. Live in Philadelphia.
From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Mountain Points High School's head football coach, Rich Wellbrook, has stepped down after being involved in a leaked information scandal. An assistant coach was fired last month for allegedly sharing inside information with opposing teams for years. Officials were tipped off by football coaches at Faith Lutheran, a Las Vegas high school that played against Mountain Point in August. The Arizona Interscholastic Association decided not to punish any of the teams that may have benefited from the leaked info, but did express concern that the story didn't surface sooner.
House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff announced today that public impeachment hearings will begin next week as Democrats move into the next phase of their inquiry.
Open hearings mark the first time Americans will hear directly from officials at the center of allegations of a quid pro quo against President Donald Trump.
Impeachment investigators have already heard from more than a dozen witnesses behind closed doors, including the 3 appearing next week. Meanwhile, the transcript from Bill Taylor's testimony to House investigators is now public.
Taylor is the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine. Lawmakers asked him specifics about his understanding of talks between President Trump and Ukraine's president, and whether financial aid would be held back if Ukraine didn't investigate Trump's political rivals. Taylor was interviewed by impeachment investigators on October 22nd. He is one of 3 impeachment witnesses scheduled to testify in public.
We will begin our open hearings in the impeachment inquiry next week. We will be beginning with the testimony of Ambassador Taylor and Ambassador Kent on Wednesday, and we will have Ambassador Yovanovitch testify on Friday. These will be the first of the open hearings.
The House Democrats' impeachment inquiry was sparked by a July 25th call. A transcript showed Trump asked Ukraine's president to investigate his 2020 rival, Joe Biden, and Biden's son, Hunter.
With the presidential election just 1 year away, we asked you yesterday what issues are most important to you.
The top response was climate with 40% of the votes, followed by the economy at 22%. It's not too late to join the conversation. Just go to our Cronkite News Facebook and Twitter feeds to vote in our live interactive poll.
Plus, take a look at your weather map here. Don't be afraid that red is not hot lava. That's a different map, but we do have some rain here in Arizona. I'll show you exactly where in just a minute.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland, in Washington, in Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia.
From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Welcome to another edition of Cronkite Sports Now. I'm Taylor Rocha. Let's talk sports.
For the latest on local sports and beyond, we've got you covered.
Let's do this thing.
We challenge reporters to go beyond, a game story. We want stories with depth.
It's just a crucial step from the college experience into the professional experience while you're still in school.
At Cronkite Sports Now, watch the journalists of tomorrow cover sports today.
What I really like about whether we're talking Horizon or PBS NewsHour is the fact it's not just one voice. We typically will get several voices talking, different viewpoints. So you're getting a good analysis of what's going on. We need good reporting, and that's what I depend on with PBS.
For more information about including Arizona PBS in your future plans, visit azpbs.org/giving.
I had swore I was not going to watch the Vietnam War because I could remember the day I watched us finally get the helicopters out thinking, okay, it's over, and then went to my college class. Next thing I know, I'm watching Ken Burns' Vietnam. And the thing that caught me so much was how he was talking to the winners, and this North Vietnamese general said, there's no winners in war. That just stopped me dead in my tracks.
For more information about including Arizona PBS in your future plans, visit azpbs.org/giving.
Next Monday, November 11th, people from across most of the world will have the chance to see the planet Mercury passing in front of the sun.
And luckily for Arizona, we'll be in a prime spot to catch a glimpse of this iconic transit. Astronomers say this rare Mercury transit won't be seen from Earth again until 2032. The planet will look like a tiny traveling dot on the sun's surface as it passes through.
In fact, Mercury will be so small, viewers from Earth will need special gear, telescopes or binoculars equipped with protective solar filters in order to see it.
Well, you may have heard some rumbles early this morning, and it wasn't your stomach waiting for breakfast.
It was Mother Nature putting on quite the show. Take a look at these incredible images posted on the social media. The National Weather Service in Tucson sharing this photo of a single lightning strike over the metro area. And Ian Schwartz tweeted this killer pic of the lightning over the valley.
The sound of thunder also sent photographer Mark Rabilas dashing outside to take this photo. And 12 News shared this image from Peoria captioned, "Oh my lightning." Well, Quentin, will we be seeing any lightning or having any storms in the next week?
Well, yes and no. Here in Phoenix right now, we're not going to be experiencing anything. We've got, high and dry temperatures right now, but a bit north, more towards Flagstaff, we still have some storms moving, especially near Payson. We have some heavy rains as well as a little bit of hail, and we might see a bit more tonight. I'll show you exactly where. Take a look at your Doppler radar here. Again, near Payson, we're seeing that red zone moving across, going east, just missing Camp Verde and going just above Flagstaff. that's going to continue to move east as we move toward the night. Zooming out at the rest of the state, though, like I said, here in Phoenix, we're not really going to experience any of that. So don't bother putting on any rain boots or grabbing an umbrella. I know we don't get to use those very often. It should be a pretty good evening for us here. But once again, taking a look at that storm right here, we've got the rain right now at 3 p.m. and that's going to start moving its way out of the state here as we usher in some warm temperatures and clear skies there. So that brings us to Saturday at 2 p.m. Not much going on weather-wise there in Phoenix. So it's going to be a pretty good weekend. But taking a look right now, here's what we got. 84 degrees outside and 10 miles per hour is your wind temperatures. Not too much traffic here. There's still a chance I could crash my car on the highway later. So, don't take it for it. But not any traffic right now. But looking at your evening here, 83 degrees moving into overnight hours at 6 p.m. and then down to 72 degrees by 10 p.m. Then your lows for tomorrow, about mid-50s across the state, 63 here in Phoenix. And then we have some freezing temperatures right here. Those are going to switch over to mid-50s for a high for tomorrow. And then we're 86 degrees here in Phoenix. And then the mid-80s along the western border of the state right there. Looking at your weekend forecast here, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, a few clouds here and there. Notice our average for this time of year is 80 degrees, so we're going above that. 88 degrees on Friday is your high, and that's the highest that we're going to see for the week. Taking a look at the rest of the days here, bright sunny skies on Monday here, Veterans Day, perfect 84 degrees, so it'll be wonderful for that holiday. And if you're trying to take a look at the Mercury Transit, there's not going to be any clouds in the sky, so you'll get a fresh view there. From the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Quentin Walker.
Up next, ASU football equipment staff are a big part of making sure whether the team has what they need.
From uniforms to extra gear, they keep it all in order. We'll give you a behind-the-scenes look at just what it takes to get it all done.
Welcome to another edition of Cronkite Sports Now. I'm Taylor Rocha. Let's talk sports.
For the latest on local sports and beyond, we've got you covered.
Let's do this thing.
We challenge reporters to go beyond, a game story. We want stories with depth.
It's just a crucial step from the college experience into the professional experience while you're still in school.
At Cronkite Sports Now, watch the journalists of tomorrow cover sports today.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
On the next Arizona Horizon, we'll hear about the national security implications of climate change, and we'll head to Nogales, where the Keno Border Initiative is helping migrants and deportees. It's the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm William Brangham. Tonight on the NewsHour, a key diplomat revises his testimony to link military aid to Ukraine to requests by the president's lawyer. Coming up after Cronkite News and Arizona Horizon on Arizona PBS.
A typical day for the Sun Devil equipment staff begins before sunrise.
Cronkite News reporter Brady King shows us the day-to-day grind they go through for the team.
Mondays are off days for ASU football players, but not for Jerry Neely and his equipment staff. So what does an equipment staff do? Well, the proper question is, what don't they do?
No one really knows what we do, but it's so encompassing, and not only do we do all the laundry and get all that stuff ready and turn from practice, but we're also in charge of maintaining the helmets and shoulder pads and issuing uniforms, sizing the uniforms, all the cloth and gear that the athletes and coaches receive.
On top of taking care of all the swag, the 15 student equipment managers are expected to execute during practice.
They help out, set up the field, help with the coaches with their position drills, help spot the ball.
After the morning practice, it's back to packing and preparing players for game day.
They can come to the stadium on game day completely naked and not have to worry about it.
By the time lunch rolls around on Thursdays, the equipment staff will have this entire 52-foot-long semi-truck completely filled with anything, and I mean literally anything, that the players or coaching staff might need for the upcoming road trip.
It's a constant anxiety every night. We have all these checklists and we check things out 1,000 times.
So have they ever forgotten something?
Can I plead the fifth on that one? We've had some instances where we've forgotten some things. But the way I like to say it is, if no one else knows, then it doesn't really matter.
The stress the staff goes through 7 days a week doesn't go unnoticed by ASU players and coaches.
I think Jerry gets here like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and he's here till 5 o'clock in the night. Even Saturday after the game, they were still here till 2, 3 in the morning.
I was taught early in college that the most important guy in the building is the equipment guy, and you don't realize that really as a player until you get older.
Seamstress, stylist, laundromat, and friend. Wearing all these hats, or helmets if you will, has its perks. For Neely, it's mentoring his student managers and being a part of a Division I football team with a family-first mentality.
We work with a staff that is very, very, very family-oriented. When my wife travels, my daughter comes up to the facility and can hang out in the office and draw me great pictures that I can hang on my walls. And it's without missing a beat. No one cares, she's welcomed.
Now, back to that question of what an equipment manager does, the answer is simple.
They do everything, pretty much. That's the easiest way to put it.
In Tempe, Brady King, Cronkite News.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.